A young British officer is sent to a remote jungle to learn the local language. But instead of handing him a teacher, the tribe assigns him a beautiful woman who must live with him, sleep beside him, and teach him everything she knows. They call her a sleeping dictionary. At first, he refuses the tradition, but that single decision changes both of their lives forever. In 1936, a young British officer named John arrives in the remote jungles of Sarawak, expecting to begin a routine government assignment. As he steps off the ship, he's greeted by a local man named Bonsai, who rows him upriver to the district where he'll be serving. Along the journey, curious villagers stare at the young Englishman as though they've never seen anyone like him before. At the district headquarters, John meets Governor Henry, a veteran colonial officer who has spent years living among the local people there. Henry is surprised that someone with John's education would volunteer for such a remote post. John explains that he's following in his late father's footsteps. His father once served in the same region before dying in the war, and John hopes to continue the work he never had the chance to finish. Henry simply smiles, convinced the jungle will change John's idealistic views soon enough. The next day, Bonsai escorts John to a traditional longhouse where dozens of local families gather to welcome their new district officer. The village chief, Malika, greets him warmly and immediately offers him a cup of strong rice wine. Thinking it's inappropriate to drink while working, John politely refuses, but Bonsai quickly whispers that refusing the drink would insult the entire village. Not wanting to offend anyone, John forces himself to drink it. As the celebration continues, one woman keeps catching his attention. Her name is Selima. She first serves him another cup of rice wine, then later performs a graceful traditional dance that leaves everyone watching in awe. John can't take his eyes off her. When the dance ends, Selima walks over and gently places her necklace around his neck. Although John has no idea what the gesture means, the villagers cheer with approval. Now it's John's turn to entertain everyone. He begins reciting an English poem, but the villagers stare at him in complete silence because they don't understand a single word. Realizing he's only making things more awkward, John suddenly grabs Bonsai and starts dancing with him instead, sending the entire longhouse into uncontrollable laughter. Unfortunately, the endless cups of rice wine soon catch up with him. Through his blurry vision, he catches terrifying glimpses of warriors carrying severed heads, leaving him frozen with fear. The following morning, he complains to Henry about being made a laughingstock. Instead of sympathizing, Henry explains that the locals are known for their heavy drinking, fierce competitions, and love of practical jokes. He also reveals that the warriors John saw the previous night were carrying the severed heads of Chinese miners who had trespassed onto their land. To earn the tribe's trust, John's first assignment is to recover those missing heads. Then Henry introduces him to a tradition even stranger than the night before. Chief Malaka brings Selima to John's bungalow and explains that she will now live with him as his sleeping dictionary. Her job is to teach him the local language and customs while helping him adapt to life in the jungle. Henry casually explains that many British officers have accepted this arrangement over the years. Since officers aren't allowed to marry during their first few years of service, local women help them settle into their new lives before they eventually return to England. Selima already speaks English because her mother once served as a sleeping dictionary as well. John is completely shocked. Believing Selima is being forced into the arrangement, John refuses to take part. Instead, he tells her she's welcome to stay in his house and teach him the language, but nothing more. To his surprise, Selima isn't relieved. She's embarrassed. Among the local, becoming a sleeping dictionary is considered an honor, and John's rejection makes it seem as though she isn't good enough. Although she agrees to his conditions, the atmosphere between them immediately becomes cold and awkward. That night, a heavy rainstorm pounds the bungalow as John struggles to settle into his new life. He discovers that his late father's journal, filled with plans for the future, has been overrun by ants. Frustrated by the relentless rain, the harsh jungle, and his growing isolation, he barely speaks to Selima, only making her feel even more unwanted. Before going to sleep, he quietly wishes her goodnight, but she doesn't answer. The next day, Bonsai decides to play another joke on the inexperienced officer. He hands John a sack, claiming it contains the severed heads of Chinese trespassers. Trying not to show any fear, John carries it all the way home before Selima opens it and discovers it's actually filled with monkey heads. The villagers burst into laughter once again, while Selima angrily scolds Bonsai for humiliating their guest. Frustrated, John threatens to punish the villagers if they refuse to take him seriously. His threat only makes them laugh even harder. Back at the bungalow, John meets Bansai's assistant, who introduces him to Jasmine. He immediately begins flirting with John, leading Bansai to assume he refused Selima because he isn't interested in women, leaving Selima even more embarrassed. Hurt and frustrated, she storms out of the bungalow. The next morning, John discovers she never returned to the longhouse. Instead, she spent the entire night sleeping beneath his house because going back after being rejected would have brought even greater shame. Realizing how deeply he has hurt her, John sincerely apologizes. He explains that refusing the tradition had nothing to do with her. It was simply a matter of his own beliefs. For the first time, Selima sees the kindness behind his stubbornness. As John and Selima spend more time together, the awkwardness between them slowly fades. Every day, she teaches him the Iban language while he helps her improve her English. What begins as simple lessons gradually turns into genuine friendship, and before long, both of them realize they're looking forward to every moment they spend together. One evening, John opens up about his past. He tells Selima that his father once served in Sarawak as a district officer and dreamed of improving the lives of the local people before he died in the war. Even now, John still says goodnight to his father every night before going to sleep, hoping he's making him proud. Touched by his honesty, Selima begins seeing him differently. Later that night, she playfully asks whether he's ever been with a woman. John awkwardly admits that he's been saving himself for marriage. Selima can't understand why anyone would wait so long, joking that without any practice, he'll probably disappoint his future wife. The playful conversation leaves them both laughing. Sleeping on opposite sides of a thin wooden wall, the two quietly hold each other's hands through a small opening, and without either of them saying it out loud, their feelings become impossible to hide. As the weeks pass, John begins interacting more with the villagers, especially the children. One day, Bansai mocks the English education system that John hopes to introduce, arguing that despite being the chief's son, his own education never made him a better leader. Instead of arguing, John challenges him to an underwater contest. The entire village gathers by the river as both men disappear beneath the surface. Bansai has been the undefeated champion for years, so everyone expects him to win. After several minutes, Bansai finally surfaces, convinced he's beaten the Englishman. But John never comes up. The crowd begins searching the water in confusion until nearly 10 minutes later, John calmly emerges holding a small oxygen tank. Laughing, he explains that while strength is important, technology can sometimes achieve what strength alone cannot. Even Bansai can't help but admire the clever trick. Later, John delivers the recovered heads to Henry, successfully completing his first assignment. Pleased with his progress, Henry invites him to Christmas dinner, explaining that his daughter Cecilia has returned from Oxford and would like to meet him. That evening, John and Selima continue their English lessons using an old children's book that holds a special connection to both of them. Selima explains that her mother used to read the very same story to her before leaving for England when she was 4 years old. John is surprised to discover that she can still read much of it from memory. As the lesson continues, John teaches her how to write new English words. He traces letters across her hand and arm while she repeats them aloud. The lesson slowly becomes more intimate as they begin teaching each other the names of different parts of the body. Their hands linger, their eyes meet, and before either of them realizes it, they share their first kiss. Their friendship blossoms into a passionate romance, and the two spend the night together. But no matter how close they become, Selima always leaves before sunrise. According to Iban tradition, if a man and woman wake up together for 5 consecutive mornings, they're considered engaged. As much as she loves John, she isn't ready to force that commitment on him. Not long afterward, John attends Christmas dinner at Henry's home, where he finally meets Cecilia, a bright young anthropologist who spent part of her childhood among the Iban before completing her education in England. She's fascinated by everything John has learned and is surprised that he already understands customs even she never encountered during her research. When the conversation turns to the tradition of the sleeping dictionary, Cecilia laughs, thinking it sounds too strange to be real. Henry quickly changes the subject, clearly uncomfortable discussing it. The evening grows even more tense when another British officer named Neville mocks the idea that an Englishman could ever develop genuine feelings for an Iban woman. John refuses to stay silent, defending the Iban people against the insulting remarks. Henry notices the change in the young officer immediately. Without directly criticizing him, he quietly reminds John that his duty is to serve both the local people and the British Empire. John returns home troubled by the conversation, but the moment he sees Selima waiting for him in her beautiful traditional clothing, everything else fades away. The two embrace, dance beneath the lantern light, and enjoy one peaceful evening together. As John's command of the Iban language improves, Cecilia accompanies him through several villages, photographing the people and learning more about their traditions. During one visit, John settles a complicated land dispute by organizing a competition instead of simply declaring one side the winner, earning even greater respect from the villagers. While Cecilia excitedly photographs the locals, she asks to take pictures of Selima as well. John notices Selima's discomfort and tries to stop it, but before he can intervene, Cecilia has already taken the photographs. Moments later, the peaceful atmosphere is shattered when news arrives that the body of a young Yakata woman has been found floating in the river. Soon, reports of more deaths follow. Determined to uncover the truth, John decides to travel into Yakata territory with Selima serving as his translator and Bonsai acting as his guide. That night, John apologizes to Selima for Cecilia's behavior and assures her that what they have together is different, but Selima is angry. She reminds him that no matter how deeply they love each other, he is still a British officer while she is an Iban woman. In the eyes of the colonial world, she'll never be more than someone he has the power to rule. Her words leave John heartbroken. For the first time since falling in love, the two spend the night apart as John prepares for the dangerous journey awaiting them the following morning. The next morning, John, Selima, and Bonsai journey deep into the jungle, following the trail of the mysterious deaths. As they travel farther into Yakata territory, they discover abandoned camps and more bodies scattered throughout the forest. Eventually, they find the surviving members of the tribe, many of whom are seriously ill and barely able to stand. Before John can understand what's happening, a hidden gunman suddenly opens fire on the group. Bonsai reacts instantly, pulling John to safety before the bullet can hit him. The attacker escapes into the jungle, but John and Bonsai secretly follow his trail and discover a hidden Dutch mining operation. Examining the rocks around the site, John realizes the miners have uncovered a rich silver deposit. At first, he believes the Yakata have fallen victim to a deadly disease, but after taking a closer look, he notices something that changes everything. The Yakata don't grow their own rice, meaning someone else supplies their food. The horrifying truth finally becomes clear. The Dutch miners have been poisoning the tribe's rice to slowly wipe them out and seize the land without resistance. John immediately warns the Yakata, exposing the miners' plan before even more innocent people die. During the expedition, Selima also becomes sick after caring for the villagers. Watching her fight for her life makes John realize how much she truly means to him. Fearing he might lose her forever, he confesses that he wants to spend the rest of his life with her. Selima loves him just as deeply, but she knows their future will never be easy. She tells him the only way they can stay together is to leave everything behind and disappear. John refuses to believe it has to come to that. He still trusts that once the British authorities learn the truth, they'll do the right thing. Grateful for John's help, the Yakata present him and Selima with matching turquoise bracelets, accepting them as trusted friends. But when they return to the colonial settlement, John's hopes are quickly shattered. Instead of rewarding him, Henry warns him to forget about Selima. He admits that years ago, he also fell in love with a local woman, but sacrificed that relationship for his duty. Now he expects John to make the same choice. John refuses without hesitation. He declares that he intends to marry Selima no matter what anyone thinks. Henry isn't willing to let that happen. Realizing John could lose everything because of her, Selima makes the heartbreaking decision to let him go. Soon afterward, John returns to England and marries Cecilia. Although Cecilia believes their marriage is a fresh start, John never stops thinking about Selima. A year later, the couple returns to Sarawak, where John hopes to continue his work. Instead, he discovers that Selima has married Bonsai and now has a young son. Heartbroken, John watches them from a distance until he learns the shocking truth. The little boy, Mandar, is actually his own son. Bonsai knowingly married Selima while she was pregnant to protect both her and the child from disgrace. Desperate to meet his son, John secretly arranges to see Selima. She allows him to hold Mandar for only a few moments before reminding him that the boy now belongs to Bonsai's family. If anyone discovers the truth, all of them will be in danger. Before long, everything falls apart. Consumed by jealousy and heartbreak, Bonsai attacks John and is arrested. As the district officer, John is forced to preside over the trial of the man who protected his son for an entire year. Hoping to save him, John repeatedly gives Bonsai opportunities to claim he acted in a moment of madness. Bonsai refuses every chance. With no legal alternative, John is forced to sentence his closest friend to death. Desperate to save Bansai, Selima begs John for mercy, while Cecilia silently witnesses the heartbreaking conversation. That same night, she finally accepts that John's heart has always belonged to someone else. Refusing to live as his second choice, she tells him to go after the woman he truly loves. At the same time, Selima sneaks into Henry's bungalow and steals the keys, hoping to rescue Bansai. She rushes to Bansai's cell, but John is already there, hands Bansai a gun to protect himself after escaping. Then he asks Selima to meet him so they can finally run away together, promising that this time he'll choose her over everything else. Before they can escape, Aggie cruelly assigns Selima to become Neville's new sleeping dictionary. While Neville forces himself on her, Bansai's assistant attacks him, giving Selima just enough time to flee with Mandar. By the time John reaches the dock, Selima has already left, believing he has abandoned her once again. Bansai's assistant tells him she fled toward the abandoned Dutch mine, so John races after her. Meanwhile, Henry catches Selima escaping, but instead of stopping her, embraces his daughter for the first and last time before letting her go. Using one of Cecilia's photographs, John finally finds Selima and Mandar hiding near the old mine. Their reunion is cut short when Neville tracks them down, but before he can harm them, Yakata warriors emerge from the jungle and kill him, repaying the man who once saved their people. The Yakata invite John, Selima, and Mandar to join their village and begin a new life together. Realizing that love has always mattered more than rank or duty, John gladly accepts. Leaving the colonial world behind, the three of them walk away together, finally free to build the family they fought so hard to protect.